That was quite a weekend out in Miami, with the second of 6 sprint race weekends on the season, where drivers had to manage the still somewhat new track to the best of their knowledge as it was introduced back in the 2022 season.
The weekend was satisfactory for most teams, though those at the back of the grid were hoping for more progress at this early stage of the season. Insights from various teams revealed their current season's progress and the measures they are implementing to address component wear and grid penalties. On another note, there has been information emerging this week that Red Bull and their junior team, VCarb, are in discussions to partner with Ford as their engine supplier from 2025 onwards. Additionally, several teams are considering rebranding, aside from Stake Saber that will turn into Audi Motorsport come 2026.
Drivers continue to work diligently with their teams as the season advances, and it remains to be seen how recent developments will impact the dynamic during the summer break when contracts begin to fluctuate for the 2025 season. I'm Will Buxton with Laura Winter, and that's your race recap. Now we move on to Imola for qualifying.
Welcome along everybody to Imola, just down the road from Ferrari HQ, and they know a thing or two about pace, and pace today is king. It's qualifying day, and it's great to have you with us.
All right, here we are coming through the end of Sector 3 here in Imola. We haven't set a time yet. You guys can see it's 5:30 left on the timer because we forgot to swap out parts. You can see it there on the bottom right. It's a 1:18.4 for P17, but we're going to be starting at the back of the grid anyways.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters wearing red today, and they've all turned out for what we're expecting will be a sensational event here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. One lap of Imola, anti-clockwise of course, unlike most Formula One circuits, will take our drivers round 3.1 miles of track. 19 turns, 9 right-handers and 10 to the left. Drivers will need to be precise at the hairpin at turn 7, given the subsequent uphill section. Without a good exit from that corner, they'll lose a lot of time on that stretch. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Perez, Hamilton, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Sargent, Gasly, Joe, Magnussen, Albon, and Johnson. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. Now, we had great fun watching them win last time out. What a great victory it was. But can they carry that into today's race?
It's the important one, isn't it, Crofty? You've done it once, can you do it again? But, you know, if you start believing in yourself and the confidence starts to build, that inner confidence is what you need. And you can carry that through to future races, including this one, and you set that ball rolling. That's the critical thing that they're looking for here. And I believe if you've got that first race win or a win at any stage, it can start to roll with you in a good way.
I understand you're upset that the components weren't swapped out before qualifying, but we can't let that affect our focus. Let's push for an outstanding finish.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. So as all the cars reform the grids, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
All right, back at the grid start here next to Logan Sargent in the Williams, I believe. Is yeah, Albon and Pierre Gasly not doing so well either. Another visual issue with the 5 red lights as we are off. Another early response from me there as we're trying to get the power down as best as possible. Everybody seems to be going from a medium to soft or a medium to hard strategy here today. 32 laps here in Imola, and honestly, as we're getting into the episode, it wasn't really that interesting. You can see the pace that everybody else has ahead of us. We only made a position on Magnussen and Albon. I believe it was actually Sargent who started ahead of us, unless they had a really good knockdown of that. But yeah, so coming through this left-hander really gave us some issues. You see the back end slip there, and we have the inside of the corner. But P18 here, as we're about halfway through the first lap, and doing what we can, especially with our teammate just ahead of us. If you guys haven't already noticed, I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather, as it's the 3rd episode now of feeling under the weather, but the show must go on. I had a little bit of a conversation with Owen, Formula Owen, and I told him, like, well, you feel bad, you feel under the weather, the show must go on. And they're doing good with their series at their own pace, and I feel comfortable doing my series at mine. So that's why we haven't really been pushing these episodes out that much. Lap 10 is when we're actually able to get some action here. Sargent ahead of Bottas and Zhou. We make a move on Zhou on the right side, the outside of that corner. And the back end steps out a little bit once we come through that fast left-hander. And now we're looking to try to make a move on Valtteri Bottas later on in lap 10, and that's a yellow flag. That's actually going to be our teammate Pierre Gasly spun in the gravel for another red flag of the season, actually. As you can see the marker there on the left, the very last second, switching over to red. As we go back and take a look at the replay, on board with Pierre Gasly coming through the left-hander, and that's going to be a spin for the red flag today. Alright, yeah, so red flag because of our teammate Pierre Gasly.
Right. Get a nice advantage here. Let's have a think about how we handle the rest of this race.
And this is originally what I kind of thought of doing for a plan, was to go softs to hards, like 10 laps, 11 laps. But it looks like we're going to be doing that anyways with the hard tires. Just hope that we do get the hard tires here. And looking back at the spin, we were all coming in towards the pit window because we were originally going to hit on like lap 13 or something like that. So yeah, so no real change to the plan here. We're gonna win the rest of the race on hards and see if we can gain more positions and see if we can get some points. And a quick reaction back to our 5 red lights here for the second time here in Imola. The 5 red lights are off. We're up in the P16 after that red flag stop. Standing restart, both Kick Saubers having a really good start. Albon behind us, Sargent ahead still. His teammate Albon as Gasly drops back down to the last place. Magnussen still back there. And we drop a position on... Actually, we're side by side for a moment there, but that's going to secure our spot in P18 as we hit the gravel. Albon ahead of us. Magnussen behind with Gasly on the back of the grid. We try to make a move on Albon here, and it's not going to be quite enough as the back end tries to come out again. Coming to the left-hander. Flip the grass a little bit, and we just can't get around Albon here as Magnussen makes a move on the inside of that corner as we made a mistake, and that's going to cost us dearly because we're both at the back of the grid right now, not having a really good race here as it's lap 13 on the restart. Verstappen up in the lead, Leclerc P2, Norris P3, both Mercedes running a good race so far. Piastri back in P7, Lance Stroll in P8 ahead of his teammate Alonso, who's back in P11. Carlos Sainz P9, Ricardo P10. So Ricardo and Tsunoda actually running a good race as well here. As we wrap up lap 13. And we're feeling really good. There's another yellow flag though. it looks like it's going to be one of the Aston Martins of Lance Stroll. The smoke there on the left. Making a move on the left, actually, as we see him on the right for a split second. Had to make a quick response there. Very close call for us. As Lance Stroll, not a red flag restart engine failure like Carlos Sainz in Australia. But, yeah, so Gasly has the momentum to try to make a move on us on the main straight here on lap 15. And we're just going to give him that and see if we can use the momentum that he has to catch up to the rest of the grid. If you guys haven't already noticed, we were all on hard tires this time. Nobody's on really a different tire strategy. Lap 19 now, we're close behind Logan Sargent. We're sitting back behind our teammate Gasly to see what kind of move he can make. We're going to make a move on the inside. If he's not going to make that move, going to be very aggressive about that. Lose a little bit of time on Sargent. We do make the move on Gasly. We're still trying to make his best improvement as we can. As the stuttering is back, I'm not sure if it's the mods or if it's just the connection at the time of recording the race in the replay. But there we are, going against Sargent on lap 20 of 32. Stroll still the only person out of the race so far. Verstappen still up in the lead. Norris close behind. Russell P3. And Mercedes is moving up into P3 and P5 at this point of the race. And everybody's seeming to be running to the end of the race on a hard set of tires. But 2 laps later, here on lap 22, we see Lando Norris dropping down the grid. I'm not sure if something was wrong up until we came through the main straight. Lando Norris actually went into the pits for a new set of mediums. I'm not sure what they were trying to do, but they were back in P18. It's a free position up into P16. And just before that, on the beginning of lap 22, Pierre Gasly had an engine failure, so that's going to be unfortunate for them. We're going to be the sole driver for Alpine for the remainder of the race. But on the next lap, 23 to 24, Piastri is in the pits. So both McLarens on medium tires. We're up in a P15. And if you guys remember, Norris was up in P2 behind Verstappen. If you remember, in the actual Imola race, Verstappen was ahead and Norris was catching up. So I don't know what they were doing during this race. They pretty much jeopardized their race. As lap 24 now, and we've got to finish out the rest of the race. So let's go ahead and get to our commentators for today's race.
Well, Martin, that's 2 races this season with red flags resulting from a simple spin. I reckon the teams will bring that up at the next drivers' meeting, won't they?
That would be expected. Drivers don't want simple situations like that to ruin their races. This is evident with McLaren as they opted to change to new tyres under the red flag like everyone else, only to switch to mediums for both drivers later, which completely turned their race weekend. I'm certain the team at McLaren is not pleased with the current progress of their race. I attempted to contact them, but they were not willing to respond to any inquiries at this time.
Well, we have David Coulthard here in the commentary box with us today. It's been a while since we last did commentary together, back in F2 last season. David, what's your take on the FIA's recent decisions to call red flags so early in the season?
I understand it's their decision to make, and if the circumstances are truly extreme, then calling them is understandable. However, earlier today and previously in Australia, where it was called for a simple spin, even with the cars on track and fully capable of correcting themselves, I don't believe those incidents justify such a call. And seeing that happen again today, I feel it will certainly be addressed in the next drivers' meeting.
That red flag and the recent pit stops from McLaren turned the championship's favour back towards Red Bull. Verstappen currently running in first, and Norris was behind him in second. When the team gave him an order for new tyres, we didn't see any visible damage. His pace seemed okay.
They could have gone in to try and get other teams to pit for better tyres. At this point, it doesn't seem to be working, as the battle at the front of the field is now between Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari. I did manage to get a hold of Toto. How's the race going for you so far?
But the race is progressing well for us. Both Hamilton and Russell are knowledgeable about preserving their tyres amidst their duels, given the track's tendency to be tough on the cars. Moreover, we've managed to maybe maintain our position within the top 5 on the grid.
We saw during practice that the mechanics were putting on parts on both cars. Were those new upgrades for this weekend?
Yes, we had new underfloors to help with aero for both cars, and the results is showing for itself, which we hope to score some decent points and get back into the championship battle.
I've noticed some improvement from the V-carbs now running in 9th and 10th positions. The current grid placements differ from last weekend, which is likely due to this track's faster pace, which quite a few drivers actually prefer.
I'm sure that will make for an interesting mid-season, bringing out the larger and faster-paced tracks, which hopes to give some drivers opportunities for points that they haven't been really able to get at quite yet. And to our surprise, we have a Haas in the top 10. Ayo, how's the race for Hulkenberg?
He's been doing just fine today, and as expected, he seems more in tune with this track like some others. And that's going to be the case throughout the season, where our drivers will perform better on certain tracks. And we are on the right track to have it be almost every track, but time will tell.
There's going to be a similar case with Ferrari, hoping to get a chance at a podium with Leclerc running 3rd, and Sainz isn't too far back currently in 6th. This would be a great finish for them, as it always would be for a home team.
We also have the drivers from Kickselber in improved positions off of the restart in 11th and 12th, and Johnson isn't doing so great back in 17th, which the last time we ran a fast-paced track like this was in Jeddah, in which they had that engine fault and retired the car. And with only a few more laps to go, we will get back to racing.
And as we continue, we still had some stuttering issues. That's all one continuous clip, so I didn't want to make any transitions as they were doing the commentary. But lap 27 now, back into P17 because of Lando Norris making up some pace, and we're defending against Piastri actually. But we're running pretty good up until now, lap 29 to 32. Piastri looking to make a move, we're close behind Sargent, trying to make a move on him. Almost 3 wide into turn 1, not quite enough. We managed to cover off Piastri and Sargent through that move, and the back end is coming out once again. We're towards the end of the race to where these tires are really spent as we hit the gravel, and we're struggling to try to stay ahead of Piastri. Piastri's still not going to put up without a fight as they close in. You can see the time less than 3/10 already coming up the hill, and we're going to try our best. We're under pressure and trying to take care of these tires to the end of the race. I don't want to crash out this close to the end of the race, but we ended up missing our braking point here, going to the runoff. That's a free position for Piastri as we struggle to get back on the track. You saw the car kick out to the left. That's going to be an unfortunate P17 finish for us today, and it's again after Pierre Gasly for the remainder of our race.
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
Well, are we looking at a champion in waiting today, Crofty, with that kind of performance? They were driving with the kind of lack of pressure that you quite often see when a driver knows, they just know within themselves that that championship is within their reach.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One, Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.